Get the bougie Monopoly board. That's actually a legit game. I got all the pieces for it.
Oh, no shit.
It's all like diamonds and shit.
What is it, like a limited edition or something?
Yeah, some artist.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Jonathan from Calling in Favors. Back here with Lamps for another episode.
What's up, guys?
We're going to get into it today. We're going to talk about Juan Soto and his new contract, making more than the top 10 earners in golf career combined. We're going to get into the hero. Did they really play?
I didn't see it, did they?
If a bear shits in the woods, if you don't see it, did it happen?
I think that's a tree fall.
Yeah, tree fall, whatever. You know what you got the point. You know, Tiger still moves the needle, right? Everybody tuned in. Everybody wanted to talk about the hero, but if he's not playing, he was the story. You know, that's what they were talking about, the fact that he didn't play, and they were asking him whether or not he'd be ready to go for the PNC with Charlie. And, you know, it just shows you how, I don't want to say bad, but how stagnant golf is right now.
That when he comes into the show, it changes everything. And if he's playing, it continues to change things. People still want to see the old dog hit the golf ball. It's pretty wild.
It's nuts, you know. And again, you start to think about it and how many injuries he had, how good was he and how good he can be. You start looking at Scotty's season last year, won like 29 million, won 9 times. But of those 9 times, how many of them were limited events, right?
Well, they weren't full fields.
And even the ones that were full fields, what is it? 15 out of the top 25 are now playing on LIV. So it's crazy. You see these numbers. You see the contract that Juan Soto just got, $760 million for 15 years. So it's insane, but it just shows you, you know, how high baseball is, or is it how low golf is? Like, where are we in terms of the money and the billions that are spent on entertainment?
It all depends on how you look at it. You can look at baseball as being a better business because people are getting paid more. I don't know, but when was the last time you watched a baseball game? I don't watch it anymore. I could give a shit less.
Yeah, I do. I'm a sports fan. You know, I'm a big sports fan, so I get into the contracts. Another winning week this week, betting on NFL, a little 4-2-1. And to get into a little deeper, yesterday, all day, I was on the Chiefs. And then last minute, I'm like, do I really want to bet this game? And I'm like, nope. And sure enough, the Chiefs didn't cover. So in my eyes, I almost look at that as a win. So
it's a W.
You know, it's been a pretty good run so far, but you know, I'm into all these other sports and I watch it. You know, I watched the WNBA. I was talking about Caitlin Clark. I mean, her contract's like $75,000, you know, and everybody went crazy and they went ham on LIV and the Saudis, but nobody says a word about Emirates sponsoring the NBA Cup. Like, so have we gotten to the point where it's just about money now and it doesn't matter who's sponsoring it? Can we move past it and get the LIV guys back and just say, all right, those are exhibitions. When you want to go play there, you go play there. And when you don't, you come back to us? Or, you know, where are we? Where are we with the Saudis? Where are we with LIV? Where are we with money? What's going on with golf?
I don't think we're anywhere. I think that the guys who got paid going on to LIV, if they come back into the PGA Tour, the guys from the PGA Tour are going to want that LIV money or the bonus money that they got. I think the format over at LIV is kind of shitty. It doesn't do anything for me, at least. And, you know, the only time I remember enjoying watching golf is when Tiger and guys like that played full fields where they're like, actually, I feel like I'm watching a competition. See, right now, I feel like I'm watching a bunch of guys just kind of
out there playing golf, chasing Scotty. And to a point, I guess that's kind of how it was in the early 2000s with Tiger, but ish. You know, you had VJ, you had David Duval, you had big names that had somewhat of a personality to match, you know, and Tiger was kind of the robot until he wasn't. And, you know, did he get hurt or did he get hurt? You know, that's what we'll never know. Was it a golf injury or was it the 9-iron to the face rumor? You know, so it's you know, but he came back from that. He came back in 2019 and he won again.
Well, that's a good point. But so if Tiger doesn't get injured, doesn't go through all the Waffle House bitches and deal with all that shit, Where is he today? Is he 20 majors?
I would say it's got to be at least 18 with
And
Jack. I mean,
if he
it's
passed 15 and beat the record, or whatever, was it
18.
18 and he beat that record, he's at 15. Does he stop or does he keep chasing
Oh, I think he plays and keeps playing and playing and playing. It's
until he can't anymore? Because Phil won a major later in life.
yeah.
And do you think we'll ever see Tiger on the Champions Tour?
I think you will. I don't know that you would have, but I think now the only way he can play is with a golf cart. And I think he will. I think he feels like he got robbed out of the late stages of his career, and I think he still wants to compete. And I think you'll see him out there, maybe not on the regular Champions Tour schedule, but at least
He'll
the
make some
majors.
appearances.
He'll make a few appearances to get ready and get polished. But I think he'll play the U.S. Senior Open, the U.S. British Open, things like that. Um, he's still one of the only guys, if not the only guy, that won U.S. Junior, U.S. Amateur, U.S. Open. Does he go to be the only guy that wins, all of those, including the U.S. Senior? So, yeah, I mean, but it just goes to show the fact that the Hero was on this weekend, and I know I didn't watch it. I tuned in a couple times.
I didn't.
Justin Thomas was in contention on Sunday. He's finally getting his game
He
back
changed
together.
his driver a little bit. He went to what, a 40?
5 gram shaft, I think, right? I mean, 44.5 inch.
I think he was What wasn't that before he was doing, or did he go to 46?
I don't know. I know he changed the shaft. I know he was playing. He's always played that Diamante white or Diamante blue rather, and I think he's switched to a graphite design like XF or something, the black and red one. So he's definitely making some tweaks to his gear. I think it's kind of funny. He still has the Binky in the bag, his favorite 5-wood, which has, that's the shaft that he has in that is still one of my favorite shafts of all time, that white and red Fujikura motor,
Oh
that
yeah,
Fujikura
yeah, I
speeder.
remember those.
That was one of my favorite shafts I ever had in my driver. I loved it in my hybrids back when I had it on the Titleist 915. Now it's just a little too heavy for me. I can't
Yeah,
really
he
get it
went
around.
he went to a 46-inch shaft,
Oh,
and
so he
there's
went longer as opposed
yeah,
to
he went
shorter.
longer, and he got 10 to 15 yards, and he was ranked second for driving distance. Not that that's a huge field.
This week, yeah, the
Uh,
25 players. So it's
yeah, so he made some tweaks, so that's good. I mean, it's good to see him playing well again. I like watching him play. I think he brings a little flair to the game.
I think he's part of the reason why golf got so stagnant this past couple of years.
He wasn't
Him
around.
not playing well, Jordan Spieth not playing well, even Max Homa, Joel Damon kind of barely made the cut, made the
Oh
top
yeah, he just
125.
squeaked by this
So the
year.
few guys that you were hoping to look to kind of step into that personality role that they lost with all those guys that lost for Live are now struggling and not playing well. So they're
And
nowhere to be found.
did you see that photo shoot for the match that's going on?
I
Is it
saw
next
the
week?
picture, but I didn't click on the link. I didn't read the story.
So they did the photo shoot. It's like, I think Scheffler and is sitting on Bryson's lap, and they're petting each other's backs and stuff, whatever.
Yep.
But one of the quotes that they took out of the article is Scheffler saying, "I can't wait to show my personality in the match so people get to know me." Why can't you do that playing PGA Tour golf? Why do we have to wait for a match to do that?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's one of those things where they're so afraid of losing sponsors and losing money,
They have
and,
to
and they have to
stay in the
they have to
lane.
stay in their lane. Again, we go back. I don't know if I'm repeating myself, but I used to not be a huge fan of Tiger. Um, I obviously respected him as the best in the game, but I always got the phony vibe from him. When all that shit went down with his wife and all the Waffle House waitresses, you got to see a little bit of that personality side of him. I think it's funny watching. I don't remember if it was the Tiger Woods documentary or if it was something else, but you hear Jordan and Jeter talk about him early in his career, was very uncomfortable talking to females in the club, and
They're like a dork.
he didn't know how to act, and you still see it. We got into it a little bit last episode, and we're going to get into it now about how fashion in golf is kind of taking a step back, and kind of some of the corniest trends from back in the 2000s late 90s, our era,
Oh
are
my
now
god.
kind of coming forward again. But you saw Tiger with the backwards Kangol and he didn't look cool off the golf course. And it was crazy, as fierce and as fashion forward as he was inside the ropes, he was always a little awkward outside the ropes, and it
I mean,
kind
I
of
don't think if fashion's pleated pants, they fucking nailed it
right.
back in the day. Like you're not gonna go from the course to a restaurant in like crazy khaki pleated pants.
No,
But a lot of the fashion up until recently, you were able to leave the course and you could go hang out with your friends afterwards and look relatively normal.
yeah,
But now it's just taken a completely, like you look at Malbon and all these brands coming out, like the fuck are these people wearing?
they look like Charlie Harper from Two and a Half Men, right?
It's
They have
terrible.
bowling shirts and baggy clothes with loafers on, and it's not golf. It's not. It's fashion forward to a point where we're getting away from who we are as golfers and who we are as a game. I think there had to be some blend of it. I loved it. You see me rocking hoodies all the time with golf stuff. When I was working in the industry, obviously you got your gear, you got your clothes, you got all that stuff for
Yeah.
free. When I would go to other golf shops and play other places, I wanted to buy stuff that I could wear off the golf course. I
Yeah,
was
because
always
you already
looking
had
at
everything you
I was
needed.
looking at belts and hats and hoodies and I'm cool with the fashion forward stuff, but at some point we're just taking the worst of the worst, right? I mean, I just saw Grayson has a new sneaker out with Saucony. Like, when's the last time that you heard Saucony sneakers, right? I mean, what's next? We're going to be walking around with
Well, it's like
sport built
Malbon
coaches
with,
shoes,
oh jeez. I
it's
don't even get me going, but it's like Malbon uses the old school New Balance shoes. Not a huge fan of them. I understand what they're trying to do, but it comes to a point where it's like, are you trying to be different? What's your, all these brands are having identity crisis. They don't know who they are or what they are, and it's just like, stick to it.
I think a lot of them are going back to what we talked to in the last episode when I said, if you try to be everything, you're not good at anything.
Yeah,
There's a couple good pieces. Like, I'm not even really a fan of that Malbon logo, like the golf ball with the smile and the hat on his face. That looks like,
it's a, I don't
but I think
mind the
it's a second,
logo.
but I think it's a second grade Photoshop art project. That, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
you could look at it like that.
what's creative in that logo, right? I like the Grayson Wolf, Ashworth, the old
Yeah,
guy carrying the golf bag. There was something to it, but at the same time, it had that clean, polished look to it.
I think the less is more with logos. Like
Exactly.
when they're too busy, and then you get into the production of stuff. Like you have an OS shirt on right
Yeah.
now. It's this clean, simple logo. BGC, clean, simple logo.
And most of the old clubs are. And I think, we were talking about off camera, Bill Belichick, talking about, I want to be the coach of UNC. I'm not sure if he translates anymore.
You don't
They,
think showing up to UNC with a cut in half hoodie's going to work out for him?
I just think he's too hard on his athletes and his players. And the new current athlete
You think
doesn't
they're
care
soft?
anymore. I think they're soft. But as important as that is, I don't think they care about tradition. I don't think they care about going to play for Coach Belichick or Coach
They care about the
Saban.
money.
The NCAA basketball, Coach K, Bobby Knight. I think it's, who's got the best offer and where can I play? And if I'm not
It's
playing,
become
I leave.
professional
It
sports.
has, and the only guy that's actually, it's kind of funny, he can afford to do it because he's part of the Manning family. But, you see the Manning kid plays for Texas. He's been sitting for now his second or third season. And he said, I'll wait again. He's an old school throwback that gets it. He gets
You
sitting
got to
behind a
earn
stud
your.
quarterback and earning your stripes, whereas the new current athlete doesn't. And I think that's kind of translating and spilling over into some of the lack of tradition and appreciation for tradition for golf. Part of what makes some of these old places so special is the history of it. And if you don't know the history of it, is it really
I
special?
mean, what's better than playing at the country club and going into that locker room?
Right?
It had,
When you
I know
walk
that
in and right away you see Arnold Palmer's locker, Francis Ouimet's
that's
locker,
like crazy shit, dude.
but I don't think today's athlete gets it or cares.
I just don't think people are golf nerds. I mean, like that's the fun stuff. You look at what they used to have to play with and where they played and the conditions they played. We're spoiled, and I think that kind of it puts a blindfold on to what the game really was and what it was about.
And I think it's starting to filter into some of the new teachers and new fitters, a
Oh,
little too tech savvy and not enough feel savvy, right? Back in the day, you had natural golf swings, you had thumbprints, you had Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Lee Trevino. They all had their own move. Now, they got it into the right spot
at the right time,
at the
just
right
like
time.
everybody does. But Jack, I mean, you look at Jack. You'd never think of lifting your foot with modern teaching. It's like,
Correct.
but then you look at Scotty Scheffler, and it looks like he's Elvis Presley when he's swinging the club. He's dancing all over the place,
And I
and it
think
works.
I think it works because he's so creative.
And he swings to swing.
He
So
just lets it go. He
yeah,
doesn't overanalyze anything. He goes, he hits it down the middle, and when he misses a green, he has creativity, which I
yeah,
think is also being lost in today's conditions.
it is.
I love water, right? Obviously, you want to have water, you want to have the golf course to play green, but at the same time, I think we've gotten so far gone that too many superintendents are okay with just saying, okay, the golf course is green, let's walk to the next place. Whereas the good superintendents have that balance of green, brown, and yellow. And
Gives the course some character,
when you
and
get around the greens, there's some creativity, which I think is being lost. When we played the Pro Scratch in 2017 at Old Sandwich, even the tour players are commenting on how hard and fast that golf course was. You hit a pitch shot into a green and you heard that, right? And I kept yelling at you. I'm like, Johnny, you got to get the ball on the ground, put the 60 away, get the ball on the ground. And I think that's being lost with the modern day golfer, with all these new teachers, the short game chef, and all these new fitters teaching numbers and teaching,
well, they're
one
teaching
move.
numbers and they're using the technology that's available. But what? When did a teacher have an Instagram following? Now it's just like, are they becoming Instagram famous? And you have all these new leagues, like the Grass League just came out, and it's all social promotion and streaming, and they're wearing jerseys like
Yeah.
on the course now. It's just like, you want to talk about an identity crisis as a brand. Golf has an identity crisis because there's just all these.
There's
You
just
got
so
Live, you got
much.
the PGA Tour, you got all these par 3 leagues now. You got, what are we gonna do? We're gonna have mini golf league next. Like, I don't. And then you have the league where they're gonna be hitting into simulator screens. Like, I
Yeah,
just,
that's.
what the fuck are we doing?
Are you excited for that? I personally am not, and I don't know.
No,
Maybe if the Boston mascot was a little better, I might. But Boston Frogs, like they call it the Boston Common, but their logo is a frog. I mean, we've gotten so like what you see the new team from um, the WNBA is the Tempo, Vancouver Tempo. Like, what happened to Lions, Tigers, and Bears? Oh my, right? Like,
yeah.
what is
Well, it's
with all,
because
like everybody's
society
trying to be
became
so creative and so soft.
woke, and you can't have an Indian for your logo, and you can't have certain things because everything's offensive. Well, it's ruining not just golf but every sport, because you can't have the traditional stuff anymore. You want to talk about, getting away from tradition? That's a good way to do it. I love, like, watching when you when you watch baseball and they go back to the throwback
Throwback
jerseys.
unis,
That's
yeah.
that's fun to watch.
It reminds you of where you were,
It's like,
like
wow, this, you like, if you watch this in black and white, you might think, you were.
back in the day. And that's have you been to Augusta? Have you been to the Masters?
No.
No. So that's one of the things that I took out of going to the Masters that I absolutely loved, right? No cell phone. Cell phone stays in the car. You're not allowed on property with it. And then I'm pretty sure once the event starts, you can't even bring cameras. You walk into Augusta, you go through those gates, and other than the fact that today's
It's
fashion,
sacred.
you are back in the
Well,
1950s.
what they
And
didn't they tell Jason Day he couldn't wear one of those Malbon things?
he had the big word Malbon across
It
his
was a,
chest,
it
and
was a
see, that's where I think golf needs to do a better job of defining what is and what isn't acceptable, but also why. Everybody thinks he got taken out of that vest because it was ugly. No, it had nothing to do with what it looked like. It was advertising a brand that was too big, right? It wasn't the vest. It was the fact that they copycatted one of the players' badges from back in the day on the Masters, and they tried to make it about their brand and take away from Augusta. Now, do I think that's important on a weekly event that doesn't really matter? No, but when you're on property at Augusta, you understand you're on
Augusta
property at
calls the
Augusta,
shot.
right? Some of these golf courses and some of these architects are so good at modernizing a golf course while keeping it what it was.
There's nothing better than going to a newly built golf course and you walk on property, and Gil Hans has done a wonderful job of this.
Correct.
Is wow, how long is it? When did this open?
Exactly.
What do you mean it's only a year old? It looks like it was built in the 1940s. Like, it feels old. It feels like there's history behind it. It feels like there's nostalgia, and you just that's so hard to recreate. He's done a great job doing it, but it's why he's the guy now. He's the one rolling around to all the old Donald Ross courses, doing the redesigns, because they trust him.
Because they're not redesigns; they're restorations.
Yeah, restoration.
Right? So you look at the Country Club, for example. In order to modernize to get for the U.S. Open a couple years ago, they had to add a ton of length. They had to add some areas on certain greens to add hole locations, right? But you'd never know when you walk on. When you play there, you still feel like I'm playing the Country Club like Francis Ouimet was back in the day. I mean, obviously they're not. They play different holes. They bring in holes from the Primrose. They reshape things. They reroute things, but it still looks like the Country Club, right? You go play a place like OS or Boston Golf, where Hance or Core Crenshaw, Tom Doak is another one that they have that feel of, I've been there before. I feel like I've played it. You play Worcester now.
Oh, wow.
One of my buddies sent me a picture of, I believe it's 12, 13, 14. They've combined the fairways to be one fairway. 2 and 3, they've combined the fairways to be one fairway. They've opened up the playing areas, right? They've added fairway runoffs around the greens. And then you go to a place that...
But it doesn't look...
No, it doesn't look new. It looks like it's been there. It looks like they went back 100 years and guys were playing with gutter perch golf
people are
balls.
starting to remove trees. That's been a huge... You have to do that. Like Plymouth wiped out a shitload of trees, and the course is better for it.
That's what you're starting to see with these new designers. And unfortunately, you get half the population like us that wants it to go back the old way. We want it to be... I'd rather a golf course be burnt out and brown than be soft and slow. But then you get 25% of the population that can't break an egg. And I'll never forget, we were laughing. I was at Spring Valley and a guy came in. He's like, John, they're talking to Johnny, the tall guy. And he's like, John, I played the Country Club last week. You couldn't stop a ball on those greens. It was terrible. And we couldn't wait to laugh at the guy, right? And we're like, well, get better at golf, Like, it's like, it's too...
What do you think was worse, your impression of that person or his golf game?
Probably a little bit of both. It'd probably be a toss-up. He's a 25 handicap. I would say that's a 15 handicap impression. I'd say I'd kind of mix it up a little bit. I nailed it. But that's the problem. I think a lot of the new golfer doesn't get it, and they don't understand. And then when they try to play golf the old way, they're like, well, that's too difficult. Well, then fuck off.
Then
you are joining the game. We're encouraging you to come on board and enjoy the game. If you play chess and I suck at chess, we're not going to change the rules or change the condition of the board to make it better for me, right? And I think that's where golf got lost. I think it went from, we got to grow the game. We need new players to come in. And then Tiger won in 18, and then he won the Masters in 19, and golf was on such a good high and a buzz.
I wish he didn't drive his Hyundai off a cliff.
And then COVID came, and now it went from being like 75-25 golfers to non-golfers to like 60-40 non-golfers to golfers.
Well, the same thing happened with boats.
Yeah.
Everyone bought a boat during COVID, and no one knew how to drive a boat, and it ruined boating for, like, you can't imagine the amount of idiots on the water. Just like the amount of idiots on the golf course. It's just like, you're going, what the fuck is going on?
See, the thing that I hope is happening, and it's just starting to see it a little bit, is the pushback from the shrink the game guys. And I don't want to be that guy. I say that in every episode, and I can't say it enough. But I'll listen to those guys and hear their points.
I think you're saying shrink the game. I think you're saying get rid of the bullshit. That's what it is. It's all the minutia that surrounds the game right now that isn't about the game.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you want to, that's what should be shrunk. The game itself, it should be taught, in my opinion, very traditionally. I think you should go back to that. But get rid of the bullshit. It's all business now. That's all golf is. It's just become a business.
Corporate.
It's not a game anymore.
No, it's
And
how
I
much
think
can we
if you want
sell?
to go back to like the baseball stuff, what are people playing for now? They're playing for money. I don't know if they're playing for sports. I don't know if you'd put one of these new age athletes against one of these old guys where, what I don't know what era it was in, but when baseball started, like they just stopped the season and guys went to war and they fought like they weren't playing baseball for money. They were playing baseball because they
For the
loved the
pride, for the
game.
love of the game. Yeah.
And I don't think any sport right now is played for that reason. I think it's like,
there are a
what
few
can
guys.
my agent get me? There are definitely
There
a
are
few
a
guys,
few guys, but
but it's
unfortunately,
not
they've
like
become the minority. They've become the silent voice.
that's why I think the steroid league in baseball was unbelievable. That was like one of the best eras to watch baseball, and I think them accosting all those people who were doing it ruined the game. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's a game.
Yeah.
I don't know why there has to be so many rules. Like, there's your basic rules, but you want to juice up and hit a ball 500 feet? I want to watch that. I don't want to watch baseball right now. It's fucking boring. It's like that guy. Everybody has a price tag on there.
It's actually gotten better since they implemented the pitch clock. It's sped the game up a little bit. There's less downtime.
I think the best sport ever is hockey.
I don't like hockey.
I fucking love hockey.
See, I don't mind it, but I never got into it. To me, it was always, and again, I didn't play it growing up.
Those guys fucking play hockey to play hockey because they love hockey. I
agree with that.
I think
their contracts
and they don't make any nearly what these guys.
What's the biggest guy's contract in hockey? Probably $10 million a year, maybe. You ain't making 40-something.
Some of them may be making a little bit more, but hockey's a real ass fucking sport. You get a bunch of guys. They're out there working their dicks off, and they're beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
And they play it because they love it. That's a fun, fast, physical sport. And I think it's really one of the last sports that's good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've seen me betting on football. Another good week. I don't know if I talked about it in this episode yet, but we got into it.
Yeah.
Did I already talk about it? Yeah.
I don't think you did.
I don't think I did. That was in the.
Yeah. I think it was before the episode.
I like football as well. I still watch football. I gamble on every weekend. I don't know who's riding with me, but another winner this week, 4-2-1. And one of the things
Kids
that
on a streak.
I'm on a hot streak, and when you're on a hot streak and you're going well, you don't bet games that you were gonna bet. All day yesterday, I was on the Chiefs. And watching the 4:00 games, I checked the spread, and I'm like, 4.5 against a divisional rider, and I didn't bet it. And sure enough, the Chiefs didn't cover. So to me, that's a win, right? I didn't bet a game.
They lose money.
But I like football. I think what you're really starting to see in a lot of these sports is, back you talk about Pete Rose, right? Pete Rose, they called him Charlie Hustle. He ruined a guy's career by running over a catcher at a play at the plate in an all-star game. You're never going to see that today.
No.
Because guys are worth too much money. That catcher that's making 15, 20 million a year doesn't want to get run over in an all-star game. That
like
means
porcelain
nothing,
dolls.
Right? So it's you've gotten to the point now where we got to get back to sport. And
even football isn't like that. These guys, and I understand the safety protocols and things like that.
Right. The hitting's gone.
But it's that's why I like hockey.
Yeah, but again, hockey's gotten away with some of it too. They've gotten away with the headshots, and the guys are getting suspended.
Safety stuff.
Some of the safety stuff. And I'm fine with that. Like, it needed to be done. It was getting out of control. But I feel like, you talk about Belichick, and you talk about the coaches that I was talking about, that it doesn't matter anymore. Nobody cares about going to play for a great coach to learn and be better. They care about, how do I get mine? How do I shine? How do I become that athlete?
And maybe their mentality is, you know what? I could get injured in college. I better get paid while I'm still young and healthy. And I get that part of it
Mhm.
because a lot of these kids, they get injured young and they just never see their full potential. They never see their career. So they got to bank while they can bank. So I get that part of it. So it is a strategic decision. Like, hey, if I'm going to get $5 million right now, guaranteed, maybe I know I'm good enough to make the NFL, but I blow my knee out. At least I got my 5 million.
And again, it goes into live and things like that. I don't blame those guys for taking the money. I really don't. Now, where Liv ran into a problem was because of the Saudis. But again, at what point do you just understand that sports are global,
I
the money's global, and it just is what it
mean,
is.
soccer at the Emirates, like that's all you see. So I think the whole live bullshit with the Saudis and stuff, that was a smear campaign done by
And
maybe
I
the
honestly,
PGA Tour. I don't know exactly who, but it was a smear campaign to discredit the league. It didn't really work because we're not even talking about it anymore, and that just goes to show you how full of shit the fucking media is.
yep.
And these guys, you think any of those guys gave a shit? They got fucking paid. They got paid.
And we're bashing Scotty Scheffler for playing against limited fields. They're playing against 48 guys at a time. And, it's talk about a limited field.
Yeah.
But you look at the scores,
I
right?
do think it's cool that Anthony Kim's back, though.
Oh, without a doubt. And you're starting to see him get better. He's getting better. I think he had like a tied for 25th or something in one of the tournaments on the European Tour last week or last month. And I think he's one that he was 2000 swag. He had the belt buckles. He was a Nike guy. He was a
Jeez,
Tiger
that
guy.
was an error.
But I think he's another one that he knew if he came back to the PGA Tour, there was no guaranteed money. There was nothing there
He
for him
made the right
financially.
decision. I
I
think.
think so too.
I think Live is a really good place for him, and I out of all the players there, I like watching him. I was a huge AK fan back
So
in
was
the day.
Yeah.
I thought watching him and Tiger, he was kind of coming up. Like that kid, I think if he had stayed, healthy, and I think he would have given Tiger a run for money. That motherfucker had hit a golf ball.
Yeah. You never know.
We just never got to see it.
You never got to see him at his best.
I'm glad he's, he cleaned himself up. He did what he had to do to become a better person.
Yep.
And now he's crushing it. He's a fun follow. He's like one of the only guys. You DM him, he'll respond.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You know who another one is DeChambeau?
Oh yeah.
He is, and as many views as he gets. I shared one of his posts a couple of weeks ago, and he liked my share and my DMs.
That's pretty cool.
So he's another one. But again, that's part of it. That's part of the deal with Liv and the PGA Tour. And I think if PGA Tour wants to be relevant again, they're going to have to kind of step up their game a little bit. And I think you're going to see that with the Creator Classic. One of the things that I hope the Creator Classic does, and we talked about it briefly in the last episode, so I'm not going to go too much down this road, but I hope they stay to traditional golf. They dress codes. They keep these guys putting their hats on forward, tuck your shirt in. There's a time and a place. I don't mind. You said the grass league, right? To me, it's under the lights. It's par 3. It's at night. You want to wear jerseys and your hat backwards? Fine.
Part of what they're doing.
The 16th hole rather at Waste Management, I thought was great until it went overboard, right?
Did you see what they did? They put it into place now?
No, I didn't.
There's a thing online. Keep talking while I look.
But when the guys like Mickelson back in the day, when he was throwing passes into the crowd, and he put on the Arizona State jersey before he hit his tee shot. John Rahm did as well. I didn't mind that 1 week a year, time and place. That's where it's supposed to be.
Did get out of control.
But this past year, I think part of it had to do with the rain delay and the weather, and I think it got too many people kind of limited it into one spot where they couldn't branch out, and they all got stuck in the same place, and they all kind of went out of their mind. But I think that's where Live could be good, and I think the Grass League can be good. And like I said last week in the episode, I thought Bryson hitting shots over his house was okay. Keep that shit off the golf course, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Understand that there's a time and a place, and there's some fun to be had, but understand when you're standing on the first tee at the country club what it means and who's been there and how many cool events they've had, and the fact that some of those traditions have lasted for 100 years. Stop trying to question everything. Just accept it. Accept that you can do it at a public course or a resort course. When you're at Pinehurst, accept there's a way that you can act on the cradle that's probably not going to be allowed on Pinehurst number 2. So it's like there's different things and there's different times and different ways. And unfortunately, we've gotten so PC as a society that if you say, what are you doing? You don't do that here? We've been labeled a boomer and the get off my lawn guy. And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the Shrink the Game podcast. But I want those guys to make their points known, and I'll help them make those points, and I'll help them find the blend, right? We as golfers and we as the golf industry, the PGA of America, the Superintendents Association of America, have to help blend the two. They can't be, you can't do this. Because if you say you can't do this and you're an asshole for doing that, the new golfer is just going to tune you out. And it sucks.
And they will tune you out.
What were you looking for?
I just looked up the waste management stuff. They're adding walkways. They just have drinking rules now. Basically, they're just going to kick people out if you don't follow.
And you had to. And I was cool. I was cool the year that I went in 2021, right? We were throwing drinks when they made the one.
Yeah.
We also threw drinks when Harry Higgs took his shirt off and when Justin Thomas chipped in from the back of the green. Like, come on. Who hasn't seen a guy chip in on tour? That's not it. Yes, it was a good shot in the moment. It was great, but he was out of contention. He was nowhere in the top leaderboard.
It got out of control, I think, last year, the rain, and they stopped letting people in, and then people were breaking down the gates. Like, it was mayhem, and that's, I look forward to kind of watching that tournament.
Once a year, time and a place.
Do you watch it for the golf or do you watch it for the shenanigans?
A little bit of both.
And that's why you watch it. I agree with that.
Yeah,
but
a little bit of both.
It's good that they put a few more, they're going to tame it a little bit.
And if it could go back to where
you're going to still be able to run to your seats, like all that stuff will be fun. But, it gets a little out of control when it's just like a stampede and people are getting freaking pummeled.
And if they can go back to where you're only throwing, like if guys want to makes a one and the stadium goes nuts and throws beers
out of the
fine, I have no problem with that. But if we're doing it over Harry Higgs taking his shirt off, come on, like that's not golf. That's fucking comedy. At what point is it a golf tournament? At what point does it affect the guys behind him?
It's a billboard for why you should go to the gym,
right? Yeah, true. But I think that's part of why Joel Damon challenged him to do it.
Yeah.
Joel Damon didn't challenge Justin Thomas to.
But there's also something to be said. I mean, look at Duffner. He got into shape and his golf game disappeared. So maybe Harry just has to stay heavy.
So that's a perfect example of what we were talking about before with trainers and teachers and only teaching one golf swing and their only golf swing.
Yeah.
I had a kid on college team that was a stud in high school. He went to VCU on a full scholarship. He left. He transferred into Methodist. Well, when he got to Methodist, he started going to the gym, started working out. Well, his golf swing changed because he didn't have to swing around his body anymore, right? His tits and his stomach were gone. Well, he started hooking the shit out of everything. He couldn't figure it out.
Couldn't keep his hand.
No, yeah. So it took a couple of years. And then once he figured it out after he left college, he started playing better, right? He turned pro. He started playing some mini tour events. And you're like, how's this kid competing? How is this kid competing in pro events when he couldn't qualify for my team in college?
Yeah.
Right. But he changed his body type. And because of that, his golf swing changed.
It will make a huge difference when you do that.
Yeah. You going to a trainer might be great. And like one of the things I've said, and I used to get into it with the trainers at Harmon, is most of the population of golfers can't make a lot of the physical moves that these new trainers and teachers want them to make.
No, they can't.
How do you play better golf? You have a better short game. You have creativity. You understand.
Learn how to putt.
Learn how to miss, right? Part of the fitters, too many fitters nowadays are only fitting guys into their perfect shot. They're not fitting themselves to narrow down their misses, right? You see guys say, oh, well, if I get a guy that I'm trying to hit straight, get him to hit it straighter, I just add spin. Well, That doesn't necessarily work. If you got a guy that's got a two-way miss going, when he shuts the face
Oh
down
God.
and unspins it, it takes off forever, long left. And then when he fans the face and spin goes up, now you're talking about a 7-iron that goes 190 when you tug it and smother it with no
And
spin, or
120.
120 when you hit
Yeah.
it with spin. So, that's understanding the golfer that you're fitting. And too many teachers and fitters put themselves in a box on a simulator, and we're staring at an iPad
I
and only looking at numbers, not understanding the
I
miss.
remember when you used to fit, and I think this is why I always enjoyed getting fit. You would use the numbers as like a guide, but I remember you just calling numbers out without even looking at the screen, just
Right. I
for
could see
fun.
what it does.
Like that
Yeah.
was 1700, launch angle was 12, and it was pretty fucking wild to watch. And I haven't seen a fitter since be able to do that, or they probably can. There are fitters out there that can, but you have like
Not as close
you
and
have
as
like these
accurate.
brands like you know Club Pro or whatever the fuck those are, Club Champion, and what's that shaft company that goes out and
True spec.
True Spec. Those guys just stare at iPads. They don't look at anything other than what the number says.
When I had
How's it
guys
feel?
when I had guys come into my bay, I would watch you warm up with your clubs. Right. By the time you were warming up, and if it was a driver fit, I already started painting a picture, and then by the time you got to your driver, I understood where that picture was going. If it was an iron fit, I'm watching you warm up, watching your misses, and
You have 3 shafts ready
lined up,
ready to go just by watching.
Usually, those 3 shafts are within 200 or 300 RPM of spin, are within 1 or 2 degrees of launch. They're all going to do a very similar thing on a good one. But how does your delivery deliver that club when it's bad? How does your delivery transition that club at the top, right? I had a guy come in and he got fit. I'm not going to talk about where he got fit because I don't want to badmouth the place. The fitters know what they're doing, but they were so worried about his spin rates not being high enough with his 7-iron. They had a guy swinging 7-iron 101 miles an hour. For those of you that don't know
That's
numbers,
ridiculous.
the average tour player 7-iron speed is about 92. So this guy's swinging his 7-iron 100 miles an hour. They put him in stiff shafts because they said they wanted to get his spin rate up. Well, yeah, it got his spin rate up to where they wanted it, but it also took his misses and had him all over the place
Know
because
where it was going.
when he got quick at the top, the shaft wasn't stiff enough to stay with him, and he had no idea where the golf ball was going. Right. So sometimes, and that's one of the things that I learned when I went out to Titleist. They fit us, they flew out 25 of the best top fitters in the country, and they had us train on some of their products. And we watched them fit somebody, right? And the guy that they were fitting, his spin rate was, I think, 8,200 RPM with a 7-iron, which is high, but everything else was exactly where they wanted him to be. Guy said, well, why don't we get his spin rate under control? And Glenn said, he's been here before. I know him, and I know what happens when we go soft. He gets out of control, right? So he was a good player. He could control an 8,000 spinning 7-iron.
Yeah.
Most golfers can't, right? So we have to worry about where your miss is, right? If I take a guy that's a 27 handicap, hits it all over the world, and put him swinging a driver at 120 miles an hour and say, well, we're going to put you in stiff shafts so we can help you get the face closed. That guy's never going to learn how to play golf. He's never going to learn how to control that golf swing. So yes, when he squares it up and times it up perfect and he gets that one that takes off, perfect. Numbers come under 3,000, spin rate is where it wants, and the driver goes forever. Because of how soft it is, he's creating more speed. That's not a good fit. Yeah. Too many fitters and too many teachers are looking for that cookie cutter golf swing, cookie cutter
Doesn't
numbers.
exist.
Like we were talking about the short game chef, right? Those are great teachers for guys who struggle with feel. If you're putting the club into a certain position, you're worried about angle of attack, you're worried about club path on a short game shot, you're not feeling the golf club very well.
No, you're too focused on whatever technique that guy's going to give you. And I don't think there's a technique for short game.
So now what that technique can do for that player that struggles is give them a go-to shot where they're not going to miss big.
And I think you should have a go-to shot with not every club, but like you should have a fairway finder with your driver, shit's going south. Same with your irons. Like you should have those shots in the bag, and you should have a go-to when you're fucking up. But I think there's a data element to short game. I just don't think it should be the whole element for short game. It is mostly feel for certain guys. Like I don't use a rangefinder. You probably don't use a range.
Inside 75 yards, I'm just feeling it, and I can feel it in the practice swing. I know where I'm at.
You know what you have to do with a golf ball.
I'm trying to hit. Inside 75 yards, very rarely am I hitting a 60-degree wedge.
No.
75 yards is my stand
like a 50, 54.
75 to 80 yards
56.
is my stand there and hit a stock 60.
Yeah.
100 yards is my stock 54. Anything inside those, I'm not hitting stock anything. I'm hitting little punches, from 60 yards. I'm hitting my
back in the stance,
trap. Back in the stance, flighting it down with a little bit more spin to stop it. Whereas if I get around the greens and I got room to play with, I'm going to hit a dead-handed shot with my 60 that just kind of pops out and runs. Yeah. If I have fairway in front of me, I'm going to hit a little 7 or an 8 iron, get it on the ground and running. I know what it's going to do. Am I going to make it as often? Probably not.
Yeah, but you're going to eliminate bogey.
I'm not going to make 7.
Yep.
I might not eliminate bogey. I might.
You have a better chance of making an up and down, though.
Making 6 or 7.
Yep.
So one of the things that kind of stands out with that, and it just shows you where we are as golfers and where we've gotten as players, right? I was watching the Riggs versus the Hater, and one of the days, it was the day that he played Renaissance, right? It was cart path. It was cart path only, or he was around the greens, and Riggs brought like 5 or 6 wedges in a putter or whatever, and the guy's making fun of him. I'm like, he has to bring that many clubs. How does he know what shot he wants to hit?
Exactly.
If you haven't seen the lie, you haven't seen the angle that you got to land it on, you need options. So if you're the guy that's, all right, I missed the green, I'm grabbing my 60 and my putter, you're doing yourself a disservice.
You're not going to get better.
Never going to get better. And
no, but I agree with you. I think that, you talk to some of these higher handicap players and they're like, what can I do to get better or lower my handicap? It's not swing speed. It's not equipment. It's managing
X.
It's managing things on the course.
Not making X.
That you're not, and not making X and eliminating double. If a guy who's shooting 85 and he can eliminate 2, 3, 4 doubles in a round just by keeping the ball lower or on the ground or better club choice, that guy all of a sudden he's going to be a 6 or 7 handicap and he's going to start breaking 80 and being more consistent. Because I'm sorry, but you're right. Like once I started to learn, like you don't need a 60-degree wedge around the green, my game got way better.
Yep. How many guys have you played? And I'm going to use OS. I know you've played OS a bunch. The 6th hole at OS. Yeah. Par 5. Yeah. How many guys have you seen what they thought hit a perfect wedge in there?
See you later.
Spun all the way back down to 45 yards, right?
Yep.
You got to hit that little punch shot. You got to hit that little, hit one more and flight it down with no
and one stop pop.
Right? Exactly.
It's like so pull up EGC. Unfortunately, they softened the front of the green, which ruined the hole in my opinion. And it was a club selection issue. It wasn't a play. Everyone's I can't keep the ball in the green. It's like,
we'll hit the right shot.
Don't hit a wedge. Take one more. Let go of your ego. Just flight a shot. Learn how to hit those shots into the greens. I think that's important. That's the best advice I could give to at least how I got better if I was talking to a high handicap. If you can hit the fairway, you can hit your iron solid. It really comes down to like the closer you get it to the hole, the more often you're going to make up and down or make bogey versus double or triple. And I think that's
too many guys think that the good players make more birdies, and it's not the case. They make less.
The average tour player makes 3.5 birdies a round.
Correct. But then you get the average scratch golfer that's expecting to make 3 or 4 birdies a round.
If you make 1 or 2, you had a good round.
You had a good round.
Just eliminate the bogeys.
Eliminate the big numbers. Yep.
Make pars. Pars are fine.
Tree line to tree line. One of the guys that I play a lot of golf with back in the day, he went to Louisville. He was my boss in the Pinehurst when I worked at Pinehurst. And he said, my teacher taught me as a kid. He had the same teacher as who was it back in the day? Flesh. He was a tour player, right? And he's like, my teacher told me, with the golf ball the way it is now, without spinning, tree line to tree line, it doesn't matter. Most golf courses greens are either A, soft enough to stop it without spin, or B, you can land it short and run it up.
Overall,
Tree line to tree line. Keep it in play. Don't cost yourself a
yep.
shot punching out. Don't, you know what I mean? Like, and if you can do that, that's when you're going to see your scores come down. So, yeah, I think we got this figured out now. Sound wise, we got a new piece. We're getting a little comfortable. I think we're going to start to get a little bit more regular routine, regular pattern. I know we had some issues. Anybody that knows me, like I said in the last episode, my voice travels and it's loud.
Yeah, we
So
get dialed now.
we had to get the condenser to kind of turn the volume down a little bit. But now that we're good, we should be here kind of every Tuesday. We're going to record.
Yep.
We'll probably post every Thursday or Friday.
Off to the
But we're
races.
always looking for topics. So, feel free. You guys, you got a golf company, you're a teacher, you're a fitter, disagree with something that we say.
Tell us to go fuck ourselves. DM us.
Come on board. DM, we'll get you in here. We'll get you to record with us. I have no problem giving guys the opportunity to make their opinion heard, right? We can agree to disagree. I think that's a major problem in society today. You're either on one side or the other, and you can't have a conversation, so the other side doesn't get heard. When it comes to strength of game, I'm not a strength of game guy, but I understand where a lot of those strength of game guys are coming from, and I want nothing more for them to have a place, an opportunity to come up and voice your opinion. Come on, talk about it. Let us know what your thoughts are. Shoot it in an email, a text. You saw in the last episode, it was great. We were talking about why you guys should join and shouldn't join a club, right? So, there's a whole bunch of things that we could talk about for the next few months until we can get out playing some golf. I know it's supposed to be 60 degrees tomorrow. I think there might be some guys. Is it supposed to rain tomorrow? Yeah, I was going to say maybe hit some balls or whatever, but we'll get there. I see a little bit of growth in adding John, so hopefully your guys are kind of chiming in with some feedback, and I love it, dude. If you disagree with me, you think I'm an asshole, good. Come on and prove it. Let's have a discussion about it. So, anything you need to add? Anything we missed? You good? All right, guys. Until next time, let's go.